many people, I see that they add a lot of volume for no specific reason. You said that you want to increase your aerobic fitness, basically by adding this low impact volume, and that makes sense, right? So just something to consider here is, at least from my perspective, is how much it actually adds to your training, because you are already training like quite a lot, right? You are being pretty active, and if you cannot keep up with your nutrition, then it doesn't make sense to add more volume, whatever it's like, high impact or low impact, low intensity or high intensity. So we can maybe get better results, or you can get better results by scaling that activity levels down.
Hello friends, if you are joining me for the first time, welcome. I'm your host Daniel Weiss, a certified nutrition coach, educator and hybrid athlete. I've created this show to help you understand and simplify nutrition so you can focus on making educated choices and improve your health, feel energetic or look like an athlete. I've been working with people who simply want to look or feel better, with athletes wanting to challenge themselves, but also with fitness professionals. I know that becoming a better, fitter version of yourself will not be possible without the right mindset and habits. That is why I cover these topics in this podcast. I would also like to bring to your attention the nutrition guides, meal plans, and other resources that I've created over the years, and you can get them free at danweiss.eu/guides. That is dan.weiss.eu/guide. The link is in the description. Hello friend, thank you for joining me today. In today's episode, Hunter, one of the members of my private Facebook community, joins me and I answer his questions regarding how to find balance between eating for health and for performance, because his goals is to be healthy athlete, but he also wants to look good, he wants to have energy, he doesn't want to be underperforming or sacrificing his health for performance. If you would like to participate and get your questions answered, then I invite you to join into my private Facebook group. The link to join is in the description down below. So you had a few questions. I think it would be worthwhile to talk through them, at least to some extent. So the original question was about that you sent me earlier this week was the macronutrient split, right? The amount of carbohydrates and so on. So what was that question about?
Yeah, so as far as carbohydrates are concerned, I was really looking into the numbers that you sent me, the caloric requirements, protein needs, carbohydrate needs, kind of sticking with that baseline fat for endurance training. And, when I plug the numbers in on the volume I'm doing or the miles I'm running, things like that, Matt Fitzgerald has another calculation out in his book, Racing Weight. When I do those calculations, it's saying I need like 800 grams of carbs a day, which is just an insane amount. So I'm just taking in like a ton of simple sugars to get there. I'm eating pancakes with syrup. I'm eating ice cream late at night. I'm, peanut butter and jellies, oatmeal cream pies, like really any way I can get carbs in. The simpler the soda here and there, Red Bull, whatever the case may be. And I'm still short. Like I'm still getting 500 on a good day. But then I have this thing, I'm like, well, I'm not eating healthy at all. So there's kind of this subconscious guilt in the back of my head. And so I just found myself like unable to meet the demands that it's saying that I need, but also really want to adhere to these guidelines. I want to, give these numbers a chance and see what they do for me and see how I perform on them, see how I feel on them, see what my body does and how it responds. But in order to eat some semblance of quality, or what I'm kind of used to considering quality, I'm just not hungry enough to get there. Like, if I eat a sweet potato or some even rice, like white rice goes down pretty easy, but like that amount of it to get that many carbohydrates, there's just no way I can stomach all that. And so I'm just at this conundrum where it's like, I need to eat this amount of food, but I like physically can't stomach it. And so that's kind of what I was asking about specifically.
No, I think this is an excellent question. And just to add a little bit nuance to this, you wrote to me that you train about 23 hours per week or something like that.
Yeah, so my training the past a month or two has been probably 20 to 24 hours, give or take, in that window. And so that boils down to 60 to 70 miles of running a week, doing 2 to 3 strength sessions a week in the gym. Usually those are 45 minutes to an hour. On top of that, I'm putting in maybe 1 or 2 kind of CrossFit style workouts, which are usually like 10 to 15 minute burners, or maybe I'll throw an EMOM in there, which is 30, 40 minutes. And then a lot of it, or at least a good percentage of it, probably 5 to maybe even 8 hours a week. It's just super easy, what I would call like aerobic work. It's like super low impact, either on a Stairmaster, an incline treadmill, or it may be even on a bike, like a bike erg. And so, that's where my training's coming in. So it's not all like hard efforts. But yeah, kind of training more like a triathlete right now.
Right. Let me ask you. You touched actually 2 or 3 like very important points here that I would like to answer, because probably many people have the same questions here or wondering the same thing as you are, and it was definitely also the case for me. So, for example, with the Stairmaster, right? What is your aim with that? Is just to get like enough activity, or how does that fit into your training?
Yeah, so my aim with the Stairmaster is really just to get an easy aerobic volume. That, the incline treadmill, even the bike. The bike is kind of hard because I feel like I have to work really hard to get my heart rate like remotely elevated. For me, I'm like pounding what I would think is like at least a threshold effort on the bike, and my heart rate's like 120. And I use a Garmin, strap up with my Garmin watch, and I strap it really tight on there, so it's really close to the skin. Also have a wrist or a heart strap or a chest strap, excuse me. I believe it's a Polar chest strap. So those do track really close. I typically find the Polars maybe a little bit higher than the Garmin. Like the chest strap shows my heart rate's a little above what my watch would show. But yeah, my aim with that is just to get that aerobic volume in, build that aerobic base. So I'm running, 60 to 70 miles a week, like I said. But my sporting background, I played team sports, but I was actually super overweight as a kid. And I was not an endurance athlete whatsoever. Like running a mile to me was a really long way. Running anything further than like the length of a football field was a really long way to run. And so I just have no background of aerobic base. And so it's my way to kind of try and cheat that system a little bit and build up an aerobic base a little bit quicker than I could if I was just running alone.
Yeah. So how do you measure that effort on that incline? Do you go by heart rate or?
Yeah, so how I measure my effort, I mentioned the heart rate. So I don't always, if I'm, working out in any capacity, I'm really throwing the heart rate monitor on that, whether that's through my watch or through the chest strap. And again, the reason for that is to really just track my volume and be able to try and have an idea of like how much calories I'm burning. So the watch obviously through the day has it says, hey, your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure is this, but like your resting expenditure just to live is 2,000 calories. And then it's showing my exercise, my activity level is showing an additional whatever it is. I'm trying to just get an idea of like how much am I burning, and I realize that's not 100% accurate. There's some error in there for sure, but it does at least give me some it helps me to see, like Garmin says I burned 4,500 calories today. I should probably eat more, and that's the help I need. I don't under eating is I do it all the time, right? I would say I probably very rarely overeat as far as calories are concerned. Yeah, so my aim with the Stairmaster is really just to get an easy aerobic volume. That, the incline treadmill, even the bike. The bike is kind of hard because I feel like I have to work really hard to get my heart rate like remotely elevated. for me, I'm like pounding what I would think is like at least a threshold effort on the bike, and my heart rate's like 120. And I use a Garmin, strap up with my Garmin watch, and I strap it really tight on there, so it's really close to the skin. I also have a wrist or a heart strap or a chest strap, excuse me. I believe it's a Polar chest strap. So those do track really close. I typically find the Polars maybe a little bit higher than the Garmin. Like the chest strap shows my heart rate's a little above what my watch would show. But yeah, my aim with that is just to get that aerobic volume in, build that aerobic base. So I'm running, 60 to 70 miles a week, like I said. But my sporting background, I played team sports, but I was actually super overweight as a kid. And I was not an endurance athlete whatsoever. Like running a mile to me was a really long way. Running anything further than like the length of a football field was a really long way to run. And so I just have no background of aerobic base. And so it's my way to kind of try and cheat that system a little bit and build up an aerobic base a little bit quicker than I could if I was just running alone.
Right. So the reason also I'm asking is because this ties together to your energy intake, right? A lot of aerobic work or whatever, it takes energy, right? And now we need to decide, like, is it like a junk volume or not? And that's why I asked you, because many people, I see that they add a lot of volume for no specific reason. You said that you want to increase your aerobic fitness, basically by adding this low impact volume, and that makes sense, right? So just something to consider here is, at least from my perspective, is how much it actually adds to your training, because you are already training like quite a lot, right? You are being pretty active. And if you cannot keep up with your nutrition, then it doesn't make sense to add more volume, whatever it's like high impact or low impact, low intensity or high intensity. So we can maybe get better results, or you can get better results by scaling that activity levels down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so as far as outworking what I can put in, that totally makes sense. If I'm digging this ditch that I can never refill, am I really recovering? Am I really making adaptations? Am I really helping myself in that regard? So it's definitely something I do consider.
Yeah, so it becomes a junk volume there. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's one of the changes that I've done recently. I remember like in, I think it was like last year, I was doing these 2 runs a day. Also, this was like half marathon training. So in the morning, let's say 1 hour run. In the afternoon, there was like tempo run, but again, it was like 1 hour. And I was also trying to hit like 10,000 steps a day and, gym. That's just too much, It was not necessary. And for you, probably not necessary as well. So I would rather play with this, like how often, what do you do, rather than just adding those things.
Yeah, so you sent me the article the other day that had to do kind of with strength training versus endurance training, and what those training stimuli are doing, what they're doing to your body composition specifically. And that's actually changed the way I think about training a little bit. So I would definitely say, when I first started, I'm in a base phase for a half marathon. And when I first jumped into that, the first few weeks out, strength training was not something I was really focused on. I just come out of, and we'd actually both just come out of the house, Hunter McIntyre's, 8-week summer body transformation, which was super heavy in the weightlifting department, very demanding with the weights. And so I was like, man, I'm going to like just detox from weights for a little bit. But then you really got me thinking. And this week, for sure, I'm like, I need to really hit 2 to 3 strength sessions in the gym just to give the body a different stimulus, to give the muscles a different stimulus, to throw some anabolic stimulation in there versus the catabolic nature of cardio. And so, and that's, the thinking there has also been like, hey, I want to actually decrease the carbs a little bit. And I want to up the fats a little bit and up the protein. And you had a podcast on actually with, I can't remember the guy's name, but Tim Podgelager or something like that. But he really talked about the recommendations he gives, and so I'm going to start using those as well.
Right. So I mean, now that is one of the things that I want to address. It's like we look at this on the performance side, and this is like really we have these athletes that are working for a specific event. Probably you want to adhere to that, but carbohydrates are like relatively easy to digest, so it allows you to also eat a little bit more, like you said, digest it quickly. Usually we don't want them to be like complex carbohydrates with a lot of fiber because this just slows your digestion. So instead you want these easy to digest faster carbs like rice, sweet potatoes, or maybe some berries, fruits, something like that, or whatever have you, right? So this makes complete sense in that perspective. But you had also about 70 grams of fat, if I remember correctly, and then it's like, okay, 70 grams, I think it makes meal satiating enough, especially if we think about these big meals. So if you have 3 big meals, you have more than 20 grams fat, like it's okay. But we need to consider then also like the satisfaction and what allows us to be like satisfied and what would work for us like longer term, a little bit longer than 1 month, let's say. Even if it's like a training stage for you right now. So in that case, like you just said, I think you did a good job analyzing it and making educated choice, like bumping up your fat, because you get more calories per that gram of fat. It makes meals more satiating. It also probably expands the range of meals you can have. So it's like on paper this is what works, and it's like probably more likely for these athletes who are really competing. They are high level athletes and they have completely different mindset, right? We need to consider it's their living. They are very driven in that side. On the other hand, we have people like me, you, or somebody who is just fitness or interested in fitness, interested in improving life, health, but also enjoys working out a lot and competing. But we don't need to drive it all the way there. And I think that also, like from my perspective, from my experience, even those like high level athletes, it's like a stage while they are peaking for that specific race. So they don't usually keep that, for example, high carbs all the time, and their diet is often less than ideal on paper. But once again, what is sustainable is like the most important thing there. So also there is one thing, if you are just, maybe for you, maybe for somebody else listening, watching it afterwards, if you eat like too little fat, although it is not like below the recommended intake, your hormones can basically be suboptimal, and you will have problems improving, recovering, and so on. So going into the like 20 to even 30% calories of fat can be like beneficial.
Yeah, so can I ask you one more question, Daniel? And the question would be, I've heard of guys who are like the Red S syndrome, right? Or I think male exercise-induced hypogonadism, something like that. But basically it's like, as a guy, you've heard the female athlete triad or Red S in females, and that's kind of maybe more talked about, but in males, that's actually very common as well, especially for endurance athletes and guys who are putting out a lot of calories and a lot of work. And so, I've heard of multiple coaches, multiple athletes talking about how they actually increased their calories quite a bit, and they actually started to fuel their body properly. And then once they fueled their body properly, their body actually, they saw great, they had, they leaned out, they had more muscle, they were quicker, their performance increased, all because they were now able to give the body what it needs, and the body wasn't holding on to stores that it thought it had to hold on to because it was in survival mode. And so just kind of wanted to ask, like, if I think I'm there, because I definitely do. When I track, I'm getting 2,500, maybe 3,000 on a good day. And that's like if I'm looking at it and I'm like, I need to eat more. Would the best way to do that, just to be like trial and error, would you just say, hey, go, try and eat 4,000 calories. Like don't even worry about the diet quality so much right now. Just get the quantity in, and then we can work on the quality from there. But yeah, would you just do trial and error and just see what that, looks like after 4 to 6 weeks?
So if I understand the question correctly, is if you should increase your intake because now you feel like you are like under fueling, and if that bump of the caloric increase would lead you to maybe improve performance, improve recovery, maybe looking better. But at the same time, you have that idea that you are afraid of gaining fat. I've been there and I'm bridging that gap. So I will just say it out loud. Like, it's been my problem for a very long time as well. So for me, it's really easy to tell you. But I also know that it's very hard for me, and I need to hear it from someone else. So I have a nutrition coach to tell me, like, yeah, do that. Trust me. If you don't trust yourself, trust me. So
yeah.
Like you suggested, probably I would bump it up by about 500 calories.
Okay.
But you said one important thing, and that was like also eating for performance versus for health, or that quality versus quantity. That's an excellent question, because I see that this is like a really big problem in people who are working out a lot, and they have also that idea that, or we have that idea that we need to eat super healthy to be able to perform or whatever. But the first most important factor is quantity. And for athletes, quantity makes quality, because even if you eat like the shittiest diet, that they have some nutrients. Yeah, and it's very easy to get these macros through some vegetables. Actually, I believe it was in Nancy Clark's Sports Nutrition Guidebook, and like when you have this balanced diet made of whole foods and so on, you need about 1,500 calories to cover all your nutrition needs from micronutrients. So then we have, for example, if you need 4,000 calories, you have 2,500, and it can be pure sugar.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I mean, if you're getting in 4,000, plus calories a day, you're going to get some micronutrients in there somewhere. Even if it's like Fruit Loops and iron fortified cereal, like you're still going to get nutrients in there. And if you've got, a ton of wiggle room because you're eating so many calories, you'll probably meet those macros along the way. Yeah, and if you look at, Hunter recommended Susan Kleiner. I have her book, Power Eating. It's not the brand new one. It's like the edition before the brand new one. And as far as I understand, she's maybe just gone down on her sugar recommendations a little bit, or she recommends something a little different, maybe a superstarch or something a little cleaner than sugar. But her recommendations and how much she feeds her athletes, for people who are doing less work than I am, like when I run the numbers on her book, it's an absurd amount of food. It's a crazy high amount of food. And I look at, that recommendation. I'm like, I don't know if I can eat this much. Maybe my body would adjust and it would just get hungry as I feed it more, and it would become used to that. But like right now, that's a ton of food. But I do really like her philosophy. Her philosophy is all about, I heard her say it a few times on a couple different podcasts I listened to, but she's like, man, if you give the body what it needs, and give it enough nutrients and enough calories to work with and do what it wants to do, it will recover, it will perform. And if it needs to lose weight to be more efficient and a better body, it will do that. But you have to give the body what it needs. And I love that philosophy, because it's so against diet culture and this, deprivation. You need to eat less. You need to become smaller. It's kind of radical in that regard.
don't be worried about getting that like fed or whatever. So I would bump it by 500 and so on. And now getting back, I wanted to create like a separate video where I put these things in detail, but also I didn't get as much improvement during the past 2 months as I wanted, because I had this block in my mind, like I would gain maybe too much fat, so I would rather do it like slowly. And of course, I got stronger. I lost weight unintentionally while doing so. But that's not the way I wanted to go, actually. Anyway, so my weight to power ratio actually improved, which is great for athletic performance. But still, I need to be adding more and more, and it's more than I anticipated or thought before. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. And if you liked also listening or reading, Miss Kleiner's book or whatever, I bet you would enjoy, or anybody who is listening also. I have 2 interviews actually with Nancy Clark. I have with Georgie Fear, and you might notice when you are listening to these people that how they communicate as dietitians is like completely different than what you normally see or hear in the fitness industry. Like you said, give the body the fuel it needs it and so on. And what we hear from the fitness industry is like quite the opposite. It's more like you need to be very strict, you need to do this and be super healthy and so on. And it's very different message there. So thank you for listening, guys. And if you have any questions or comments, I will be happy to hear them or write them down below. I will also post in the description where you'll find there these other articles that we mentioned or the podcast episodes. Have a great day.